Hi, how are you? So in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the Behringer Xenyx 802S mixer. I recently purchased this mixer. Now the main reason why I bought this particular model of mixer is because way back in 2005, I bought an earlier version of this mixer. That was the Eurorack UB802. And again, I bought that way back in 2005. I've been a die-hard user of it for the last 20 years, and it's worked great. Up until quite recently, a few months ago, I noticed it was starting to act a little bit wonky. Some of the buttons weren't working anymore, and sometimes things would cut out and cut back in. So I think, I've got a good 20 years out of it, and I just decided it was time to move on and get something more recent. So I decided to buy this, the Xenyx 802S, which is almost identical to the Eurorack UB802, which I'm showing a picture of right now on the screen. Very, very similar. A few little differences, but overall about 90% the same. So I'm just going to go through and point out some of the features of this particular mixer. So I will say in general, if you're like me, if you're a home studio musician, if you compose and record your own original recordings in your home studio, this little mixer is perfect. If you're like me, if you don't really need this big, huge mixer, this simple little mixer will definitely do the trick. And like I said, the previous model that I used, the UB802, it was perfect, and it was a real workhorse for me for the last 20 years, up until recently when it started to act a little bit funny. I've used this particular mixer a few times. So far so good. It's worked great. So if you're the type of person who, again, if you're a home recordist, a home studio enthusiast, songwriter, musician, if you do podcasts, this I think would be a perfect little mixer for someone who does a podcast. So I'm going to go through and basically talk very briefly about what this particular mixer offers. And I'm going to start up here in the top left corner. So we have inputs for two different microphones, and you have a choice between XLR and 1/4 inch. And you have these two gain buttons in addition to the main level controls, and I'll get more into that later. So you have jacks for monitor out, left and right. You have your headphone jack, which of course I use quite frequently. You have an effects send if you want to send your signal to, say, an outboard signal processor or something along those lines, an echo machine, what have you. So that's kind of a big difference between this mixer and the previous version. On this one you have only an effects send, whereas on the past version you had effects send and an auxiliary return. So with the older mixer I could send the signal to a signal processor and then route it back into the auxiliary return. You can't really do that with this mixer. Not the end of the world. I can work around that. That's not an absolute necessity, but that is a big difference between this one and the UB802 version. You have line in 3 and 4, your left and right there, line in 5 and 6, and you also have line in 7 and 8. So for a mixer that is so small and so compact, you have a lot of inputs that you can work with. And you also have your main outs here. Now another thing I'll mention, you can't see it, but there's an adapter jack on the back and an on-off switch. And that's another big difference between this one and the UB802. On the UB802 there was no on-off button, so basically the only way to turn it on or to turn it off would be to plug it in or to unplug it from your wall socket. There was no on-off switch, and I like that the Xenyx 802S does have an on-off switch. Now moving down, again you have your line level controls down here. So you have the line level for input 1, you have your pan control, you have your effects, and you also have a high, mid, and low EQ control. And you have that for input 2 as well, and also inputs 3 and 4, and inputs 5 and 6. So basically, again, you have many different inputs, and 1, 2, 3 and 4, which can be a stereo input, 5 and 6, which can also be a stereo input. And again, for each of those, you've got your pan, your effects send, and your EQ for each one. Now, what's also great is you also have a 7 and 8, your input control for line 7 and line 8. Now, for this one, there's no pan, there's no effects, and there's no EQ. Again, not the end of the world, and for a mixer this simple and this inexpensive, really you have to expect limitations like that. And really, for me, that's not the end of the world. Now, when we look up here, it says stream USB/RCA, and you have a left and right out and a left and right in. Basically, and this is another difference between the previous model, that the previous model also had RCA ins and outs in that same area, but it was called tape. Now, I guess people really don't use tape recorders all that much anymore, so I guess I can understand why that's not called tape anymore. But basically, if you wanted to run that to an external recorder, you could easily do that. If you still use tape, reel-to-reel, CD recorder, whatever it is that you prefer. You have your volume control for your headphones/monitor, and you also have phantom power, which is great to phantom power your microphones. The UB802 version offered that as well. You have a stream to monitor button, and you have a stream to mix button. And you've also got your LED indicators here, very simple, very basic. It just basically goes from -20 up to clip. And you have a power indicator, you have a phantom power indicator, and you also have your level control for your main mix. And that's basically it. Again, very simple, very no-nonsense. Again, I got 20 years of good, solid use out of the previous version. I can't complain at all. In general, I enjoy Behringer products. I have a number of Behringer products. And again, this isn't some big, sophisticated, top-of-the-line mixer. It's intended for folks like me who just do simple little home studio productions. And if that's who you are, and if that's basically what you do, and it sounds like this mixer would be good for the applications that you use, then by all means, I highly recommend the Behringer Xenyx 802S. It has clean sound. Again, I've used it a number of times. Just all the controls are very smooth, very pleasant to the touch. It's easy to use. It comes with an adapter, and it comes with a simple little instruction manual. And again, it works just fine. So if you're looking for a simple, basic, straightforward, entry-level mixer for simple home studio use, this one is perfect. And also, if you're a DJ, if you're just doing like a simple DJ setup, this would also work very well for that purpose. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do. It's always greatly appreciated, and it always really helps my channel grow. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.